Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 312 at scavengerlife.com.
So last week we talked about not having AC in our home.
Yes.
And we've talked about this many times before, just one of the ways we've chosen to be frugal. When we remodeled our house, we decided not to put in a central AC unit.
Right.
And it's interesting. We have like a community on our own website, but then there's a community kind of totally different on at YouTube.
Yeah.
And there was a group of people who were really concerned that we didn't have AC. Yeah. They were really trying to help us. And, it's interesting. I mean, people just didn't think like we thought, well, why not just put a window unit in?
Well, yeah, it's funny. Someone's like, just get a window unit. Like, they literally cost like under $100 at Walmart. But the funny thing is, a lot of our windows are not just like regular windows that you can just throw a window unit in. They're like casement windows and like windows that don't open like that.
Well, so the bigger issue is, and it's just, it was interesting, people wanted all this detail of our home, is we have an open floor plan. So when we redid our house, we basically took out almost all the walls in our house. So I think some people were thinking, oh, that just meant we just took the doors out of a normal house. So why not just put a door back on? No, it's like
our house is like one big room.
So if we wanted to have AC in our house, we would have to be able to cool 1,200 square foot at one time. There's no way. I mean, I guess if we really wanted to, someone suggested we could get like plastic and like hang, and so you're like,
it gets extreme.
So, but the bigger issue is for us, it's just one of those examples of, it's not that big of a deal for us.
Right.
It's 6 weeks out of the year, it gets pretty hot, where I'm like, it would be nice to have AC.
Right.
But like we say, we sleep on a covered porch. It's nice and cool outside.
Right.
And then we do have an office building
that does have AC unit.
Exactly what people say. We have a window.
Yeah.
A unit. It's like 300 square feet or so.
Oh, it's perfect.
And it's perfect.
Like, we've slept in there when it's been really hot, like even too hot to sleep on the porch. We'll just go over. There's a bed over there.
But I will say, ultimately, my question is like, man, people are soft. It's like, what are people going to do when like the zombie apocalypse
when there
comes?
Is no electricity? Yeah. Well, honestly, like when we were renovating our house, I mean, we were like super, like we didn't have a dryer. We don't have a dishwasher. Like we don't have anything like that. I mean, now we do have a dryer because we run an Airbnb and you absolutely have to have a dryer. I found out. And, I wish I had a dishwasher at this point. I'm like, I would love a dishwasher. But, that stuff it's not that big a deal.
Well,
really.
I think that the way we have approached things, once we kind of got together, and our strategy has seemed to be kind of like, let's start with the least we need.
Right.
And then add stuff in as we go along.
Right.
And so, we didn't have, waited to do our clothes for a long time to
dry clothes.
Yeah, we would just hang them, and that was fine for a long time. And then, and then we as needed. And I think that's different than a lot of people where there's just an assumption is I need all this stuff.
Yeah, to start.
And then they realize, oh, I don't really need all this stuff. Right. But then it's hard to get rid of it. So you start from as a little as possible, and then add stuff in as you go along.
Right, exactly. That's totally how we do it.
So I can imagine one day us actually investing in getting a nice AC in this house. But yeah, maybe. But that point hasn't really happened yet.
I think also for us, we're just like, how bad do you need it? And for us, it's like, meh. Well, we don't really need it,
Yeah. I never thought I would need a coffee maker, grinder.
We don't. Well, now
what do you call that? It's like
like an espresso. Yeah. Like.
But man, now that we have it, I'm like, I can't live
never
without
going
this
back.
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And something I wanted to kind of talk about today is, it seems like this question comes up quite often.
Yeah.
When you hang out with people that sell online,
right,
either in person or online, it seems like the question always kind of comes back to, what's the best way to sell online? Like, if you do a Google search, what's the best way to sell on eBay or on Amazon? It's just like it's
just massive.
And really, I think the answer is, it does not matter what anyone else says or does. And I think the answer really is, the best way to sell on eBay or online is whatever way that you're going to keep doing it.
Right.
You know? Like,
well, whatever way is sustainable for you.
Right.
And it's different for everybody.
Right. I mean, you know, so really the best way to sell is whatever way you enjoy, because it's the only way you're going to keep doing it.
Right.
Because someone can tell you one way to do it, but if you don't enjoy that, or if it doesn't fit into it's whatever your schedule is, then you're not going to do it, and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's just going to stop.
Right.
Right, exactly.
I mean, so ultimately that's it. And I really do, I would love to know, it's been a little while since people started to go on YouTube and do their haul of videos, and you know, there have been people that get popular. I wonder what the burnout rate is, you know?
Yeah, like, over time.
How many of those people that were really enthusiastic about it are still doing it? Because that's our constant challenge, always. Is like, you know, we've been doing this pretty full on since 2008, you know? And I think we're still into it. I mean, we're still doing it.
Still making money, you know, still interested.
You know, and we're always trying to figure out, you know, how do we make sure this is still enjoyable for us? You know?
I mean, a lot of it this year has been hiring an employee has helped us not burn out.
Right.
That has been huge.
Right. It's true.
I mean, I don't know. I wonder if we didn't employ her, if I would have just been like, I can't do this anymore. But I think, I don't know. Have to pay the bills, but
I think we would have kept going. It's just, I think once we had got a helper and we started to realize how much weight she was taking off of our shoulders, it's really allowed us to kind of expand out into doing other things.
Right.
It's just been fun, you know?
Well, I mean, a huge part of it is you were able to work on the other house. She started... I think the same day that you started working on the house, doing the renovation. So it allowed it, you know, it allowed the eBay, because it was like she was taking pictures instead of you, so the burden was now like moved over.
That's right. We had just gotten back. We had emailed
from Ireland.
We'd emailed her while we were in Ireland, asking her if she wanted a job, and she said, "Well, let's meet up." And then right when we came back was when we started that job at the house, and then her coming out.
It was all at the same time. So
and I of course forgot how much time it takes to work on a house.
Well, and it's so funny because it's like, it's not like you're a carpenter. You're just over there helping. But in that, I mean, and supervising and ordering things and doing runs to the dump, like that is a
I mean,
job.
I'm just doing all the grunt work just because we don't want to pay someone to like
dump the trash,
pick up trash, and
But so it's just interesting timing how that happened at the same time.
Yep. And so, you know, when people say, "Is there a best way to sell?"
Right.
And really, you know, we all come from different places and there's barriers to entry. So, like, we got an email from someone, it's this week.
Yes.
And it was great because we had been talking about, like, we're amazed that people have kids do eBay. And she was like, you know, the reason why I have a job is because, in one word, kids, I have 3.
Yep.
So that means I cannot have a borderline hoarder house.
Right.
Budgeting at groceries is out of the question. I waste a lot of time driving to places I don't want to go to. I cannot have a single, somewhat unstable income. I have to have very good insurance for orthodontists, shrink, allergists, dentists, sports therapists, ER, for strep throats and ear infections, ambulance rides for broken limbs.
Oh my God.
And I have to drop sums of money at the mall for brand name clothes, because my kids all must look like their friends. Yeah. So, but I mean, those are someone's constraints, you know?
Right, sure.
Obviously, people like us would maybe question some of those choices, but those are choices that, you know, she needs for her life. And so if this is someone that listens to our podcast, she must be interested in this, and I'm assuming she sells a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, her life gets constraints. Make her sell in a different way than like we do, you know?
Right.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's interesting, on the forum, there was a seller who came on and said, you know, I'm starting off new. I have, I think, probably like 300 things at her store.
Right.
But, you know, she's like, no one is really supportive of what I'm doing.
No one around her.
And that's another, it's constraint. You know, if you have a partner, like a husband who is not, or a wife, you know, who is not supportive, and, you know, and she's like, you know, my family is always questioning why I'm doing things. And, you know, and that's a tough, you know, and that's a tough thing, you know, when you're just starting out.
Right. I mean, that to me has made us successful, is that we both are doing this together, you know, and that when I started, you were like, yeah, keep going, keep doing it. What can I do? I want to help. You know, like that it wasn't like, you can't do it, we need to get an office job. Like,
everyone's answer to this woman who was just kind of posting just because she just needed to vent was, once you start bringing in the cash, everyone, you know, especially it's your husband, is going to shut up.
Yeah.
I think for me, that barrier of money was very small. Like, I was like, if you made $50, let's do this.
Yeah,
you know?
no, like literally, you're like, you made $50, drop everything. This is our job now.
I mean, other partners might be like, wait, you know,
only made $50,
$5,000, okay.
Yeah.
Well. So I guess everyone has that point where it actually seems attractive, you know.
Right, exactly.
But, you know, having that kind of, you know, environment as well will force you to sell in a different way, because probably I can imagine that means like you can't take up a lot of space. You have to be kind of like keep everything in a small area, or else, you know, people are going to get crazy about it.
Yeah.
I thought another thing interesting this week was there was one day where I don't think you slept so well. It's one night.
Yes.
And you were like, I wish I could just sleep all day. and you know, and my answer to it is you totally can.
Yep.
Like, if you wanted to have a day where you just sleep, you basically could.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm trying to think what it's really funny because that day, I hadn't slept very well. I don't know why. I think I had like too much caffeine during the day. So like I was able to get to sleep, but my sleep was like fitful. And then I woke up and I was just like, oh God. And it was funny because I literally said to you, I wish I could just sleep all day. And you're like, you can, if you want to, and you got the things done you wanted to do today. You can. I didn't. I think I like went to my office and actually listed a bunch of stuff on eBay once I kind of pushed through that, you know. But it's true. I mean, if you're like, I just need the afternoon to like.
Well, let me ask you: do you think you have a hard time giving yourself permission to do stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely.
Why is that?
Because I feel like I need to work all the time. Yep. Because I'm just like, well, number one. I need to rephrase that. I do not feel like I need to work all the time, but I enjoy the things that I have to do anyway, that I want to do them. Like last night, I had a bunch of like chores to do. Like I had to do farmhouse laundry, so I was like doing that. I had a bunch of dishes to do. I had some food that I wanted to cook. Like I had like prepared this food, you know, like defrosted some things and got some things out. And I was like, I have to cook that because it's been sitting in there for like 3 days, like ready for me to do. So I did that. But I wasn't like, oh, the drudgery of it. You know, I was like, these are things I'm doing, you know. Right. But I think it's hard for me sometimes to be like, I just want to do nothing. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've tried to teach you about the idea of like the power nap of like,
right, and I have done that.
If
before.
You need to sleep, just go to sleep, and oftentimes it's just like a 20 minutes is all that your body really needs.
Yeah,
but, I mean, again, I just want you to feel like if you need to take that day off, just to do it.
Yeah, no, and I think we're pretty good at that. It just sometimes it just does seem like there's always something to do, so it's hard to be like, oh, I'm just gonna not do anything today. It's like, you know, it's kind of hard to do that.
It is true. Anyone who's self-employed, I mean, just anyone in general, we all have just, you know, because of your family, your jobs, or if you're self-employed, your own businesses, like, there's always stuff
to do. Yeah, around the house, for your business, like, you know, we have an employee now, so, oops.
You know, and that's part of, you know, the whole, you know, not burning out is just a learning, when to take that break. And I will say that I feel like that's something I bring to the business, is that I think I'm pretty good about knowing, like, hey, let's just go take a drive.
Yes, you're much better at that than I am.
I think that's a real skill I've developed in It's My Life. When I was in my 20s, I learned that I'm not very good at, like, focusing on something that I hate. So I have to do something to get back into mood to do it.
It was funny because I think it was Wednesday, the day that I was like, I just want to sleep all day. Well, you were like, let's just take a break. We'll drive down to the river house, see what progress has happened there, because we're laying the floorboards down. And then we'll come back and you'll do what you want to do. And I was like, okay, that's actually a great idea, because I did want to see, because I hadn't been down there. I'd just seen, like, photos here and there. So we went and did that, and that was great. It kind of, like, refreshed me. Like, It energized me because I was excited about what was going on down there. I was like, yes, I'm super excited,
I mean, I think that's another thing, and, God, I do not want to sound like some sleazy, like, self-help person, but, it is good to just remember, what
you're working for,
and like what we're grateful for, and and like what the higher purpose is. So it doesn't feel like a grind. Like, just to remember, like, oh, this is what we're doing, and this is cool, and the reason why we're selling these old shoes is so we can invest in a
refinish this house,
beautiful wood floor.
Exactly, right, exactly.
If you don't always, it's maintaining that, like, higher purpose.
Yeah,
it can just feel.
Well, it feels like a grind. Yeah, you're just like, oh my god,
job I've made for myself.
Exactly, and so that was actually really good, because sometimes it's stressful to go down there, and I'm like, I actually don't want to go down there. But things are progressing in a good way, and it's like exciting to be working on, the house is being worked on again. So I'm like, okay, good. Yes, let's get this done. So that was good.
So let's talk about eBay, our week.
eBay.
So we'll do our numbers in a bit, but we had a much better week, which means that the slumber slowdown isn't always continuous.
Right. Goes up and down.
So we did a couple things. Number one is we're doing a book experiment.
Yes.
I mean, we definitely sell books and ephemera, but we were at an auction. We talked about this. It was one of those times where, they're selling all these books. No one wants them. And so I bought, like, 2 tablefuls of books for $10.
Yep.
Now, I normally wouldn't do that, but there were a lot of, like, cool older books. I don't know. I mean, I was like, let's just try it. But it turned out to be like 10 boxes of books.
It's a lot of books.
We went through, got rid of like 3 or 4 books just off the top.
3 or 4 boxes of books, yes.
And now we're having our helper go through the books, and we're actually trying to teach her how to research and price.
Yeah, so it's taking a little bit longer.
So this is like a safe kind of category for us to feel like she can't really screw up, because we have no money really invested.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of expensive paying her to do this. I mean, so if where we paid $10 for the books, we'll probably spend a couple $100 having her go through it.
Yeah.
So, we'll be $200-300 in. I'm hoping we make our money back and see.
Me
but
too.
I will say, and I've said it before, sometimes you have to do this. Like, you have to allow your guesses to happen.
Right.
And then to see, like, oh, it's a lot of work. We're not making a lot of money. And the next time 2 tables of books come up, I will not be interested in buying them.
You better not be, because it's taking up my entire office. The other thing, too, about books like these, too, is we have to store them. So that's like
that's my job.
I know that is your job. I'm just saying it's it's a whole thing. So.
To me, that's the least of the concern. It's interesting to see you and our helper actually figure out how to sell these. Yeah. Because what you guys are doing are interesting. You're doing a lot of like small groups of books.
That was the beginning. I don't know if that's going to happen.
But it's interesting. They aren't even being sold as like individual books. It's like just to put on your shelf to look nice.
There's one lot.
Okay.
There's one lot of decorative books. That's it. because they're beautiful books from the 1800s. One of them's from the 1700s, and people buy them as decorative books. That's just one lot. So
it is.
that's just
Because
it.
Because I felt like there were more in there that were like that.
Nope. But some of those, it's like, it was literally the library of a Congress member who, was in Congress, like, in the early 1900s, like 1915. They have all these books from, like, congressional addresses and stuff from back then, which is interesting, but it's like, that's very particular. Like, somebody out there...
Does anyone want that stuff?
It's really, like... Oh, my God. Like, literally, it's like a huge, huge box that weighs 30 pounds of these books. And I'm like...
Does anyone...
Oh, my God.
Want that stuff?
I don't know, because no one else has it listed. So you're like... This is what I'm slogging through in my office.
$10,000.
I was literally like, put $50 on it and best offer. Like, I don't even know what to do with this. So, great. That's my opinion of it all.
So, another experiment we did this week was, this has happened where someone famous dies.
Right.
Actor, singer, whatever. Yeah. And then everyone knows, like, that stuff starts getting bought up on eBay, well, I happened to be online and noticed that this a racer died. He's
a motorcycle racer named Nicky Hayden. And we had found a bunch of... Him and his brothers had done some event, I guess, and they had, like, donated all this stuff. I don't know why it was at this thrift store, but we bought a bunch of it. And this kid who's 35 years old, he's a motorcycle racer, he died this week. And you know what the weird thing is? He didn't die in a motorcycle crash. He died on his bicycle, like, during vacation.
Wow.
What? Yeah. That's so
Seriously.
crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, are you serious? That's insane. So we had hats that had his name and number on it. It was Nicky Hayden, 69. And we listed those, like, immediately. And 2 of them sold so far. But, yeah, it's one of those things where you're like...
I don't think he's quite that famous where people are, like, snatching stuff up. But it was interesting to... I'm just glad that I remembered that we had that kind of stuff.
Well, it's so funny because I was taking a break, like, getting some coffee or something, and you're like, one of the Hayden brothers died. And I was like, what? And I ran to my office and, like, listed all that stuff. Like, I was like, okay, let's list it right now.
Yeah.
So, that's just what you got to do if you have that stuff.
Seriously.
So.
All right, let's talk about our numbers. Let's hear how we really did.
How do we do?
It doesn't really matter how we feel as we did. It's just what the numbers are for us.
Yep.
And this is just an example of what 2 people who sell on eBay make. Okay, so in our main store, we sold about $1,700 worth of stuff.
Yay.
We sold, it's 55 items. Average price is about $30.
55 items. It felt like that. Packing this week.
Yeah, I mean, in $1,700, if we're making $200 a day, I'm happy. So we made a little more than $200 a day in our main store.
That's
good.
That's so helpful.
Thank God, because again, in the summer slowdown, we can sometimes got to think. As last year, there was a week we made like $800. So I'm not looking forward to those weeks if they're coming. We sold a couple things on Bonanza. Just they're always like a little bonus. And then in our second eBay store, we sold 17 items for about $500.
Not bad.
Yeah.
17 items. Wow.
I like our second store.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's great. Nothing's being listed on it right now, but stuff's still selling.
Yeah, it's kind of like our autopilot store.
Yeah.
And just to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Things we sold, it was really just a lot of bread and butter stuff.
Delicious.
Clothes, shoes.
Just like when you're selling 55 items in a week, I mean, I know there's sellers that sell a lot more than that, but it's a lot of little things. Mugs, hats,
right,
shoes here and there, a couple scarves randomly. It's a lot of clothes. It's a lot of, like, housewares.
I mean, I will say, we always say, our bread and butter, we aim for $30. I'm always surprised. We sell a lot of, like, and we don't mean to, like, $17 items, $22 items. It's just,
I don't know, man. Like, we've been picking that stuff up, and
it's just because, you go out there and I'm thinking it's worth more, and then you come home and you're like,
it's really not.
It's not.
If I want to move it out,
Yeah.
it's $12.
And especially if you're dealing in clothes, it's just tough.
It's
if it's
tough.
not like super brand names. So
Yeah.
it's,
But I sold some pretty generic, like almost Target brand clothes, and I didn't do bad on that. I mean, it does add up, so that's helpful. But yeah.
So some of the things we sold, again, not a whole lot we'll talk about, but like one thing we sold a lamp for $120.
Yeah, it was kind of like a disco era sort of eyeball lamp. That was a great sale. It was a great sale to wake up to, like $120. Nobody gave me an offer. They just bought it outright. It was like, that's great.
And actually, as we were talking earlier on the podcast, you might have heard cha-ching.
Yeah.
It was a pair of curtains sold.
Yeah, a set of vintage curtains sold for $120, which, God, those are great sales.
We've had those for
a while,
a couple years probably.
Yeah, but
it's
they're
nice
cool.
To sell them. Good week, you know.
It was good.
I'm happy. Customer issues. So we got a couple more returns, just from that big, huge. When we came back from out of town, we shipped 150 items. So we got a couple. It's more things sent back, but there was no problem except for this one. Mm-hmm. We sold one of these shirts.
It's a sweater. $10 sweater.
We'd had it for a while. Someone gave us like an offer where there isn't even its make offer. They just said, "I'll pay you $10," and we were like,
"Great,
whatever."
Love it.
Unfortunately, this is one of those buyers that do exist. I think that they're very uncommon, so I don't say all buyers are like this. But she was just a grumpy buyer.
I would even say more than grumpy. I would say she has like mental issues. This person has a problem.
She wanted to return it. She said it just didn't fit her. We're like, okay, fine, send it back. And then suddenly she says, I want you to pay my shipping. I don't want to pay a restocking fee.
And she's threatening us. I will report you to eBay.
Right.
I will open another case. I don't know how she would do that, but...
And then we get it back. We give her a refund as we do.
Yeah.
We even said we wouldn't do the
restocking fee.
And then she gave us a
negative feedback,
saying that the item was damaged and we were like a bad seller. And then Ryan looked and as a seller, you can only leave positive feedback.
Right.
But a lot of people that sell will leave the positive feedback, but we'll put a note that kind of makes a hint of
this person is a problem.
Yeah.
And I looked at her feedback while I was on hold with eBay. I was like, I'm calling eBay. I'm getting this removed. People are like, this person is literally crazy. Like, there was feedback like that. Like, this person is complaining so much about a $5 item. Like, et cetera, et cetera. There's like a litany of
But the
them.
end of the story is...
Yes, I got the feedback removed. And the rep said, yep, that's feedback extortion because they're threatening you over and over again with reporting you and stuff, even though you accepted her return and refunded her immediately.
But it is interesting. I wonder, and someone on its forum was talking about this, about buyers who are abusing the a system. I wonder, I know you can hit its report buyer, and you kind of like type in some stuff and send it off, and it's kind of a black box, and it's, no one knows if it's being documented. But, I guess the assumption is that if eBay gets too many of those, they'll actually
do something
and look at the buyer,
ban the buyer or something,
or something. It's like,
I
know it's probably a difficult thing for eBay because they want people to buy, right? They want people to feel safe buying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what's the line that a buyer has to cross before eBay's like, we don't want your business,
right? Yeah.
Is leaving too many negative feedbacks a problem? I mean, or does it need to become like fraud? And, I'm sure they're always trying to balance that.
Yeah.
I mean, one reason why eBay took away the ability for a seller to leave negative feedback was because eBay was becoming kind of a scary place for a buyer, because if you have sellers who are overly aggressive, they can also start to abuse a system where they're complaining when they maybe shouldn't.
Right.
And buyers are feeling, you know, and then it's just this
Well,
back
that's
and
why,
forth,
honestly,
you know?
that's why they took away the ability to do negative feedback on a buyer.
Right.
Because, you know, that was an issue with buyers because you're like, I bought it, it was broken, I complained, and they gave me negative feedback.
Right.
You know, like,
Right.
I understand why eBay took the ability away to do that.
Right. So,
but, you know.
yeah. But, you know, there are these stories popping up where there are, I don't know if it's a trend or just the newspapers are getting in on it, is just this
Right.
idea that some buyers are starting to recognize that if they complain that they can get
They'll get their money back
Yeah,
or
and,
partial refund or something.
it's-
But it's tough.
it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Okay, that being said, let's talk about something we learned in its forum.
Yes.
One thing that was interesting was, so a guy who's on its forum, he's actually been around since the beginning.
Yeah,
And
he's been on.
and we email back and forth every now and again, and he'll send me links to just eBay stuff. But
yeah.
he said that eBay took down 1,000 items from his store.
Yeah.
Now, this is something we had heard a couple weeks earlier from someone else, but eBay sent him a message that said, we're taking these down because they're over a year old.
Right.
They have not sold.
Right.
We're taking them down. We want you to look at them again. We want you to change photos and titles, and here's a link with things that
Yeah.
you can do to make them it's better, and don't put them back up until you do that.
Right.
You know, and so that's a scary thing, right?
Right. I mean, that's some serious work. 1,000 listings,
Right.
that could be your entire store.
And
well, it wouldn't be, but yeah.
And so I will post the email that he got.
yeah.
And so then he actually called me on the phone, and we were just talking, and you know, he said, "Well, I can just put these back up." Like,
Yeah, you can relist them.
It wasn't that thing. You know, eBay can take things down where they're still there, and you just can flip them back on,
Right.
Or they can take them down where like all the info's gone.
Like when you get a Vero
Right.
claim, your listing is gone. Your photos
It's
are gone.
erased,
Like
right.
there's no record of it on the.
And that was my nightmare. Was like
That's
they
what I
were
thought he was
erasing.
saying. Yeah, which would have been great.
But he just said he just like relist.
Right.
I mean, that's all he did.
Yeah.
And so, because really, I mean, he's going to let me know if eBay follows up, but there's no way for eBay to know if you've done anything to
Changed
them.
it,
Or
really.
They're a fresher now, you know?
Right. Sure.
And so I don't really know eBay's like game here, you know,
Yeah.
what they're like. I guess the idea is they want to remind people who sell, like, if your item's been up for a long time, like, do something to it.
Basically,
to make it better.
they're like, remember how Ryan and Jay said list it and forget it? Well, don't do that.
Oh.
Well, he listed and forgot it,
Right.
and then
Well,
they shut him down.
Okay, so here's the thing. We don't really know what the end game is here and
Right.
how this is going to play out. Like, are they going to do it anytime your thing is 12 months old? I mean, I
Right.
don't know. We'll see. I mean, the other thing is, it just seems like a stupid hoop to have to jump
Right.
through. So all these people who sell that say don't do good till canceled,
Right.
do 30 days. I guess you could just do that. I guess that backs up their argument. But it's just a dumb hoop because they're still just the same items.
It's the same thing.
You're just like kind of, it's making a fool of eBay by just putting a new number on it. So it's kind of
When you
like,
sell similar.
So, you know, it's not solving the problem that eBay's trying to solve here of like trying to make a listing fresh.
Right.
To me, it's just like, it shouldn't matter to eBay
Right.
what I have up. If I'm willing to pay the 10, 15, 20 cents to have an item up per month,
Yeah.
who cares?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, it's not like FBA where we're like, yeah, the FBA warehouses probably got really full. I'm storing all my stuff at home. eBay has nothing to do with that. You know,
Right.
it's not that kind of like, yeah. So it's like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
The other weird thing is if eBay's, you know, closing things down that are more than a year old, they don't specifically show you what's a year old. They show you what's 16 months old. I mean,
Right.
they have the information there, but they highlight this is more than 16 months old. So it's like, what am I looking at now? Am I looking at like stuff that's a year and I need to like go fix those? Or can I wait till it says 16 months and then know which ones they are?
And again, my argument for the illicit and forget it is just because there's a lot of stuff we sell that just is not popular.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's not a valuable item.
Right.
And so I think 12 months is just this weird arbitrary number,
Yeah.
Like,
I understand that eBay is like, we want, stuff that sells and stuff that's fresh and whatever. But if you're a marketplace for unique, weird, one-of-a-kind items, which they are.
Or just clothes that are not new or used. There's just like a lot of stuff. And plus, I think it's just there is more stuff on eBay than can be bought,
Yeah.
Because that's just the way it is, you know? So to me, it's just like one of those things where like, we'd like you to do something and you're like, I want to relist.
And then it's like,
all right. But maybe it'll be helpful for some people that sell where they really do need to look and see if they have good photos.
Right.
But it's as my friend said, I got great photos, great titles. They're just not being bought.
It's just,
Let's go ahead and answer some questions.
Great. You can always call our voicemail line to ask a question or to leave a comment. The phone number is 540-407-8486. You have 3 minutes to leave a message.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Vanessa. I watch quite frequently. I was recently discharged from my job because of some health reasons, and I have sold on and off on eBay for years. But now I want to really get into it and make it a business. I was wondering how you guys handle your like Social Security taxes and your federal taxes and things like that. Do you have control? Because I would really like to run my business just like I work for somebody, or basically I work for myself. If you could answer that question for me, that'd be great. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, so it sounds like you got cut off a bunch. You must have had a bad signal, but I think we got the gist of your question.
The answer is you want to be self-employed.
Right.
And so how do you handle your taxes? Because there are many people that work their whole lives for someone else. They get a W-2.
Right.
That's the official IRS designation for that kind of person that works.
Yeah.
And basically, their employer deals with all their taxes.
Yeah.
They pull your tax out of your paycheck. They put some money in on top.
Yep.
And then they send it to the IRS. And then at the end of the year, you often just get like some cash back because you paid too as much in. When you work for it yourself, you now become 1099.
Yeah.
And this is something we've all had to deal with. Mm-hmm. It's no one takes taxes out of your eBay payments.
Right.
So at the end of the year, you have to owe all those taxes.
Right.
So
now you can reduce the amount you owe by deducting your business expenses, which is part of what you have to do. But again, what we do is we have an accountant, and they've helped us do it.
So two things that happened. One thing is we started to use GoDaddy bookkeeping.
Yep.
There are other services out there. That's just the one we happen to pick. Yep. And that sucks in all of our eBay and PayPal info and our bank info and helps us to categorize our expenses.
Right.
So at the end of the year, it's much easier to make these worksheets and these totals.
Yeah,
right?
So that I can give them, like, these are all our expenses, and I give them to our accountant, and they take it and enter it into your tax forms.
Right. And so that was the other thing, was getting an accountant who's basically our partner in this.
Yeah.
And it could be a she, he helps us to see what we've made, what we can deduct, and then, we pay the percentage of our tax, state and federal, on that amount.
Yep.
And
so
that's what you got to do.
Done.
Yeah.
Get an accountant.
Welcome to the world of being, self-employed.
I love your podcast, by the way. Keep up the good work. I had an interesting thing happen to me. I was looking at the online different news services for what was going on in the world. And after the first leading headline, scrolled down and there was an advertisement, and it was eBay advertising, which is great. I love that they advertise. And lo and behold, the picture looked really familiar. I had a Winnie the Pooh pair of mugs that I had online for a while. It was my picture and my description. And I go, wow, that's pretty cool. I wonder if it'll increase my sale or make it any faster. But you guys keep up the good work, and eBay keep up the good work. Thanks.
So you just had a cookie.
It's a cookie.
And what that just means is, that's the internet is following you. There's a cookie on your computer when you were probably on your eBay store.
Yeah.
And then when you went to this it's news website, it knew that you were looking at this particular item on an eBay store, and it showed it to you again.
Yeah.
Assuming that if you see it again,
you might go buy it.
You might go buy it. So
like
that's how
if I'm shopping on like Target.com or Overstock.com, I swear to God, if I go to any other site on the internet, it's like Overstock, because it knows.
Right.
Like Overstock has paid that website to have a cookie and know that you were there and show the exact item you were looking at on Overstock.
And there's lots of articles about like if you are like doing Google searches on like, what to do if you're pregnant,
Right, you're going to start
if you think you're pregnant,
those
then suddenly every Facebook ad is like for breast pumps and strollers and baby stuff. And, so that's just the internet. I actually use one of those extensions on my Chrome browser that
ad
blocks.
blocker.
Well, ad blocker and also blocks cookies, so that way.
Well, the only issue about blocking cookies too is a lot of times you'll have issues. I've had issues when I start using plugins like that with eBay. Like it can't sign in and it can't show me a certain window, and then you call eBay and they're like, make sure you're allowing cookies. And
so
like,
it's what I block is third-party cookies.
Third-party cookies?
So
okay.
I will allow eBay to put a cookie on there so it remembers who I am.
But ad.
But what happens is that you can go on some of these websites, and all these companies that pay the website, they'll put all these. Cookie is like this nice name. It's something that will follow you.
Yeah, it follows you all over the internet.
And so you can block them because you don't need them.
Oh, I need to do that then. I feel kind of dumb because I didn't realize that.
The argument for it being like someone into technology is like it's supposed to help you. Like it's supposed to if you're into trying to find something, they're just trying to make advertising that's helpful to you. So there's two different ideas about it.
Hey, Jay and Ryan, this is Ian from Western Canada again. Still loving your podcast and still appreciating everything you guys do. I had a little story to tell about scammers, I guess. This just happened to me. I have a few pretty big sales, but the biggest sale I've ever made was it's a piece of lab kind of scientific equipment that I sold a couple weeks ago for about $1,300. And on Saturday, I received return requests, which kind of made my heart sink, to be honest, because I was really happy about that item. And the buyer said that there were a couple of parts missing. And I won't go into too much detail about the item, but there were essentially two of the main, most important parts and the two most resellable parts in the item. So I was really kind of angry, to be honest, because I knew 100% that I had packed those parts. There's no question about it. It was my biggest sale ever. I triple-checked everything. I knew exactly where they were in the packing. So I was pretty convinced that something untoward was happening, especially because the user that bought them from me had a name that implied that they parked stuff out. So I was thinking along the lines of, this guy's going to basically cherry pick the two good parts from my item, send me back the husk, and make off with a good $500 of profit or something like that. So I was pretty frustrated on Saturday and kind of a bit through Sunday too, but I thought of what you guys recommended, and I just messaged them and asked them if they could provide a picture of what they did receive. And they replied back that they received everything in the listing, but the drive was missing and another piece was missing. So at this point, I started thinking about how this thing looks, and the drive, which is one of these important pieces, is kind of hidden behind a little door in the display unit. So anyway, I went back and forth with the buyer. To make a long story short, they just couldn't find the key piece, which was a little bit silly. They should have looked a little bit harder before starting a return request. But it turned out that they weren't trying to scam me after all, which I should have known, because it sounds like that almost never happens, really, except with cell phones. So, I don't know. I don't want to draw too many, tendentious kind of lessons from it, but one of them, I guess, would just be assume good faith until you're 100% sure otherwise. And I know you guys always push that. So I didn't do anything wrong, but I was certainly jumping to conclusions in my own head. Anyway, thanks for your podcast. Take care. Bye.
Well, I mean, that's a good, we want to try and get these kind of stories out there where sometimes a frustrating experience happens. It's with a buyer that could easily lead you to think, oh, I'm being scammed.
Right.
But when you start actually working professionally with the person, they're just confused about something, or you're confused about something because you're selling items that are weird.
Well, and also, it's a $1,300 item, so that's a lot of money for you, and it's a lot of money for your buyer to have spent, so you're both a little on edge. Your buyer's like, did they strip out the most important part? And you're like, did they strip out the most important part? Everybody's kind of freaking out a little
So if everyone just starts with goodwill, let's just assume everyone's here to make this work, this person didn't buy the item to not actually
use it,
to want the item,
or want it,
and then you go from there, so I'm really glad that really worked out.
I'm glad you shared that story with us. That's great.
And someone else at forums I was just trying to answer, she's a new, this person is a new buyer, a
new seller,
they just started to sell fairly recently. They had this bad experience. It's with a buyer, and the person just assumed they were being scammed. And so on its forum, we all just said, do these things, ask these questions, ask for a photo, call eBay. And I think this person, what they had done is they had first gone on the eBay community of forums and, automatically makes all these assumptions because people say this. Oh, this person's scamming me. This is what the scam is. Yeah. This scam always happens. Yeah. People are always buying things and then it's replace it. It's with a bad item. I mean, I'm sure these things happen, but it becomes like an urban myth where it's just always happening.
Yeah.
But then it turned out that this person's sale had gone through well, and the person called eBay and, got it taken care of. And
it worked out.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Sarah, and thank you for your podcast. I have learned so much from them. I retired a year ago, and now I feel like selling stuff on eBay is what I was meant to do. I love it, and it really gives me a good excuse to go to garage sales. I have two questions that I would like to ask you, and both have to do with taking pictures. I use my iPhone, but I struggle with capturing the correct shades of colors, especially pinks, reds, and blues. It usually takes me a while to get those colors right, so I was wondering if you have any tips for me. The other question I have is that I take my pictures of clothes on the floor, as I have nice hardwood floors, but I find that when I edit the pictures, I have to rotate more than half of them. I don't understand why some of them are upside down. So that's it. And again, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with the masses. Bye.
Okay, so we also take pictures with our iPhone, and same here, reds, pinks, burgundies, blues, blacks sometimes. The iPhone just does not know how to color correct those properly. But my secret is this. I will have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of white paper. If you put that in a place in your photo that you can crop out, you can get the correct color, because your phone is like, oh, that's white. Oh, then this is definitely pink. Without it, like you said, we take pictures on a hardwood floor too. It's seeing pink over brown, and it's like, it doesn't know what to do with that, which is weird. You're like, iPhone, come on. So I use the piece of paper, or if it's an actual item, not a piece of clothing, I can have it against a white wall, or put the white of the wall in the photo and then just crop that out. That helps me. The second question about things are upside down or things are sideways. The thing about Okay, so when you take a photo with your iPhone and you turn your phone sideways to get like a horizontal picture of something, your iPhone is smart enough to know, oh, you turned me so that it's horizontal, and it flips itself most of the time. The eBay app does not do that. It is automatically in like vertical or in quotes portrait mode. So it's just always going to take vertical photos. And if you flip it to the side and you're like, take a horizontal photo. Nope, it's vertical. You have to rotate it. It's really annoying. I wish that they would fix that, because it would be so nice to have the eBay app understand that you flipped it because you want a horizontal photo.
But I do find that when I'm taking photos on the phone, and I take all my photos and then I save them and then I go through, they make it pretty easy to flip it. It does stink because it is that extra step.
Right.
But, it's not the
For
worst.
now, that's how it is. But cool. I'm glad that you're selling on eBay and having fun.
Yeah, we were just actually, it's this morning, it's a Memorial Day weekend. We kind of hit a bunch of yard sales, which we haven't done in a while. We kind of like, I'm not saying we're down on yard sales, but really when you're going to auctions and getting carloads of stuff,
you're like, why do I need to go to yard sale?
It gets, you're like, why do I want to go to a yard sale so I can get 3 items,
Right.
But there were a lot of yard sales out.
I mean, Memorial Day weekend is like yard sale.
And I do
central.
just remember how fun it is. And
it's fun.
How there can be just a yard full of junk and then you find the most awesome item for 50 cents.
Right.
Like
yard sales are cheap.
Like today we found like a vintage pair of like granny...
cat eye glasses.
Yeah,
for 50 cents.
Yep.
I'm like, I am going to put those up for $100.
Yep.
Like, there's no doubt. And I've sold cat eye glasses, real cat eye from the 50s glasses for $100.
So if you like going to a yard sales because it's a fun hunt, it is so great to sell on eBay because then it does give you a reason to go.
To go to a yard sale and not be a hoarder. Yeah.
And make a bunch of money.
Make money, yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Jay and Ryan. This is Marty in Santa Barbara, California. I've been a listener for about 2 years now. I used to be a coordinator for movie visual effects in LA and San Francisco, which was a passion of mine. But now I have a regular job. I get to raise my kids, though, in a really nice rural location in Santa Barbara County. I'm mainly an eBay hobbyist. I have been since maybe 2003. I've had sales as high as maybe $2,000, but on average, I usually just sell, a couple, maybe 10 items a year from $50 to $200 or so. Although I want to do more, that's where I'm at. And, I basically just sell the most expensive item I have when the time frees up. Right now, I have recently acquired about $25,000 worth of architectural elements from India and Bali, and some are antiques from the 19th century. The batch includes doors, windows, stone, marble, things like that. On your show, I've heard you mention local pickup. I've never done it, so I'm just wondering. If I understand it right, the buyer doesn't actually have to be local. They just have to be willing to pick up or willing to pay someone to pick up the purchase. Could you clarify that a little bit? How do you do the listing on something like that? Can all the communication just happen over eBay messages, or what happens if something happens over the phone? How do I protect myself, if it's not recorded in eBay messages? Couple other questions. Can I cancel the sale and relist it if it has been sitting for longer than 6 weeks? I mean, is it pretty much a normal time frame, or do you specify that in the listing? Sorry, I've never tried this. And then finally, how does eBay deal with feedback on something like this? Because it's kind of gray in terms of when it gets picked up. It doesn't get recorded in eBay, right? I mean, anyway, I plan on doing the listing simultaneously with Facebook groups. But if I get an offer from Facebook, I'll definitely cancel my eBay listing first so I can give my eBay priority and not have two buyers buying at the same time. Any other feedback or comments you have would be great. I love your podcast. Thank you very much. All right. Goodbye.
Okay. Well, first of all, I love that part of California.
Yep.
Santa Barbara is a beautiful place.
Yes.
And so how do you do local pickup?
Yeah.
So it's really, people make it complicated, but for us it's been very simple. We actually just sold a bunch of furniture in the past couple of weeks. So you do local pickup, and in the description, you say, this is a local pickup in this town. You can pick it up, or here are some shipping companies that you can contact, and they'll pick it up for you.
Right. So I'll give you two that you can link to.
Right.
One's called uship.com, and that's like the eBay of shippers. You can like basically give to the best person.
Yeah, like all these people will put a bid on the job.
Yeah.
And then the other one is called
Plycon. Yeah, so plycon.com.
It's kind of like a fancier, like white glove service where they come and pick it up. Anyway, so we like had a woman in it's Manhattan buy 4 Danish chairs from us.
And Plycon's coming on Wednesday to pick it up.
And for us, here's the key.
Yes.
People have to pay when they buy.
Right.
So that way, she bought these chairs and she paid immediately.
Let me just clarify. You cannot make them, I've told you this like 4 times, you cannot say pay immediately on local pickup. We do encourage people, you do have to pay for this now, and then come pick it up when you want to. But you cannot if you have pay immediately checked off and you have local pickup as your shipping option, no other shipping options, it won't let you do it. So you have to uncheck that. But we do tell people, you need to pay for this, and then we'll arrange pickup.
I guess my point is, we have people pay.
Yes.
And then we don't care when they pick it up. So like this woman bought these 4 chairs 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, several weeks ago.
And she is just now figuring out with Plycon how to pick it up, and she's supposed to come on a Wednesday. So it's for us, as long as we get paid, we don't really care how long it takes for the person to pick it up.
I definitely want these chairs off my porch.
Sure.
And she understands that, but we're like, you paid for them, like, whenever your people...
Right.
I mean, she's eager to get them, too.
My point is, what we don't do is play that game of they buy them, and then they'll pay for them when they pick it up, and 6 weeks later, they're like, oh, I actually don't want these things.
Right. Like, if they don't pay, we will... do an unpaid item.
Right.
Yeah, an unpaid item case, which we've had to do before with other items. And
And, I think why, we were kind of all hesitant about this when we first started, but now that we're doing it, we realize it's a normal thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that buy furniture and cars and big items, RVs on eBay, and they understand how to ship.
Yeah, they know they have to... Look, there are people who understand it, there are people who don't understand it, but you can just tell them they're responsible to do it.
And everything is done in eBay. So
eBay messages,
like, I'm not dealing with Plycon, I'm dealing with this lady, and that's the whole point. It's not my responsibility, ours, to deal with Plycon and to figure out how much it's going to cost.
Right.
We're like, you deal with that, and you just tell me when they're going to be here.
And actually, we say we're happy to, be around when they're coming, so let's coordinate that. Like, Plycon emailed us and said, hey, we're coming on Wednesday between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. And I was like, great, that I will be home.
But if for some reason Plycon or whoever picks it up, if they damage the item, it has nothing to do with us.
They have their own insurance.
We make sure the buyer is dealing directly with whoever they choose to ship. Yeah.
So the other thing too is if it's just the buyer coming to pick it up, it's basically like Craigslist. You're like, and if you're in Santa Barbara, I mean, people from LA are going to be coming up there, to buy stuff from you. So they're going to be like, great, let's take a weekend trip up to Santa Barbara and buy this stuff.
And then, I hear people, and it's often people that have never done this before. They're like, well, what happens if the person picks it up and then they go on eBay and they say, I never got the item? So it's like, okay, is you like make an invoice and make them sign it, or take a picture of their car. I mean, we've never done that. We've never had a problem.
Right.
But, if you really want to.
Yeah. And the other thing too is on furniture or any local pickup items, I just say no returns. I mean, if something was really bad and they wanted to return it, but I just like close that down just because I'm like, you're not going to return this sewing machine,
I would say 80% of the people who buy stuff on a local pickup actually pick it up themselves.
Yes, that's
so they come and we make sure they look at the item and they're happy with it before they walk out the door.
You know, like that barber chair we sold. This guy drove from Detroit, and then he turned around and drove back. We were like, "You're."
So he drove 10 hours one way, and then 10 hours the next.
It was. Yeah,
but
it was nutty.
People do that, and we've done stuff like that.
We've done stuff like that,
like the adventure of scavenging for.
You drove. This is one of the craziest ones. You drove to New Jersey to get a refrigerator. This very particular refrigerator, the exact one I wanted in the exact color I wanted. Yep. You drove to New Jersey 6 hours almost because it was basically in New York. It was like Newark, and then you turned around and drove
all the way
home.
Back. Yep.
But I was like,
we did it.
It's the fridge that I want.
But you know what?
Not for us, for the river
I'm going
house.
on the adrenaline of getting exactly what we want for a good deal.
I mean, that's what it was.
Yep.
Okay, that's it for the podcast this week. You can check out the blog at scavengerlife.com for the links we discuss and to join the conversation on the forum. You can call and leave a question or a comment on the voicemail line. You have 3 minutes to leave a message. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Monday morning. On Wednesday, we post a What Sells video to show what's sold on eBay and how much it's sold for. Currently brought to you by Steven Schultz, who has some great sales, and I always enjoy his videos. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube, so you always get the latest episode. You can listen to our other podcast at shampooandbooze.com, where we talk about our rentals and our renovations and stuff like that. You can rent our vacation farmhouse. Summer is getting booked up for sure, but there is still room if you want to come down. The link to the farmhouse is on shampooandbooze.com. We're ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1.
Bye!